The heart of America, a land of even tempo, a land of mild traditions, a land that has kept its traditions of horse racing, ballad, song, story, and folk music, that is filled with bluegrass beauty, that is not akin to poetry, but is poetry.
Western Kentucky University, through a grant from the National Endowment for the Humanities, presents Kentucky Heritage. From the South Union Shakers. These rolling farmlands are only a small parcel of the most fertile land in this southern edge of the bluegrass state. Yet they are unique, for they endure as one of the many legacies of a celibate and communal religious colony which existed on this Logan County, Kentucky soil for more than a century. This was the South Union Colony of the United Society of Believers in Christ's Second Appearing. Commonly called Shakers, a name shortened from Shaking Quakers, this religious society had its origins within the English Quaker Church in the late 1700s. The first Shakers to come to the New World were only 9 in number. Led by Mother Ann Lee, whom they believed to embody the second coming of Christ, they settled in New England in 1774. By 1805, 11 Shaker colonies had been established in New England, and missionaries were moving west to establish others on the frontier lands of Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky. Recruiting others to their number, people who believed in Shaker principles of celibacy, self-sufficiency, common property, could lead to a perfect society, the poetic dream of utopia. Colonies were established in Kentucky at Pleasant Hill, in Mercer County in 1806, and at South Union in Logan County in 1807, marking the end of the Shaker westward growth. The South Union Colony, first known as the Gasper Society, thrived in the early 1800s with increased membership from conversion and the taking in of orphaned and abandoned children. By 1827, the society had 349 members and 6,000 acres of land. It grew with the erection of a number of buildings, whose plain but imposing architecture remains today a lonely reminder of the Shakers' devotion to durability, simplicity, and quality workmanship. The main Shaker principles of pacifism, charity to all in need, celibacy, industry, community property, cleanliness, and honesty in all dealings are clearly molded in their many activities. The Center House, built in 1824 as a large dwelling house for the church family, one of the family subdivisions of the Shaker community, provides examples of many of these principles. The dual stairs, one for men and one for women, demonstrates the Shaker ban against marriage and the belief in the separation of the sexes. Men lived in one side of the building, women in the other. Separate entrances were provided, even though they led to a common meeting room.
And when we find ourselves in the place just right, we'll be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right. 'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, we'll be in the valley of love and delight. be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right. 'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, we'll be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right.
The Shakers were devoutly convinced that they should worship with song and dance. It was a part of their devotion to compose words and music for hymns, words which might come to their composers in flashes of inspiration and even in dreams. They even developed their own musical notation system in the late 1820s. This system used the first 7 letters of the alphabet to indicate tune and tempo, providing a simplified method of reading music for singers not familiar with the musical score. At least they believed it was simplified. This literal notation was finally abandoned in the 1800s when it no longer seemed to serve its purpose. Just as music provided a spiritual outlet for the Shakers' religious beliefs, their craftsmanship fulfilled the need to work with their hands. Mother Ann Lee urged her followers to
put your hands to work and give your hearts to God. Labor to make the way of God your own. Let it be your inheritance, your treasure, your occupation, your daily calling.
Shaker workmen heeded this advice. Their skill in sculpturing wood to a particular demand can be seen in the graceful curves of these stair rails in the center house, and in the delicate bending of wood to fabricate these graceful oval boxes. The women members of the Shaker colony demonstrated their craftsmanship in ways less demanding than woodworking, but equally creative. They wove straw into many variations of straw bonnets. The bonnet was an important part of the Shaker woman's dress, contributing to her religious modesty. Even a small girl was provided a bonnet having the same degree of quality as the larger ones. The straw was split using this ingenious device. Straw was pulled through the closely spaced cutting edges. Silk from silkworms grown in the South Union mulberry trees was processed and woven into fabrics of many colors. A high degree of self-sufficiency was characteristic of the Shakers. It is not surprising, then, that they went to such great lengths to provide their own clothing. Even the material used to make the clothes, the silkworms to make the material. Their primary concern in construction was, is it needed? Does it fit the purpose? Will it last? The result was a product fashioned to do the job, to fill the need. Out of simplicity, economy, and function comes beauty, a special elegance, a feeling for material that marks Shaker work. Work which had no sense of time, no haste, no hurry. Mother Ann Lee had urged her Shakers to
do your work as though you had 1,000 years to live, and as if you were to die tomorrow.
The Shakers took the time to build the intricate mechanism of a clock, time to carefully join the woodwork of a hidden attic. Inventiveness is another product of the Shakers' devotion to industry. This folding child's bed, perhaps the first of its kind, is only a small example of a list of inventions which include the one-horse wagon, condensed milk, the washing machine, the flat broom, and many others. This seemingly endless hard work and devotion to simplicity might leave the impression that the Shakers were a dull people. This early drawing, to the contrary, depicts the great activity in the religious dance. This shaking type of dance led to the name of Shakers.
I have a little one that mother gave to me, the cutest little drum that ever you did see. I'll drum night and day, I'll drum night and day, to call volunteers to fight sin away. Rum-ta-da-tum-ta, rum-ta-da-tum. I have a little drum that mother gave to me, the cutest little drum that ever you did see. I'll drum night and day, I'll drum night and day, to drums to fight sin away. Rum-ta-da-tum-ta, rum-ta-da-tum.
The Shakers have left to us extensive records of their many activities in the form of diaries and journals. The straightforward and often cryptic writings in their journals provide many insights into their way of life.
Brother Samuel S. McClellan is now making use of his great lathe, polishing and grinding teeth on his emery board wheels to make for the sisters some worsted combs. Ministry moved their lodging into their shop, the meeting house being too cold and unhealthy through the coldest part of the winter. They generally return back to meeting house about the 1st of May. In the general evening meeting, Elder Sister Melinda, filled with unusual zeal, led off in shouting, dancing, and stamping, the spirit of which took strong hold of the assembly. 1829, August 23rd, cheese making. The Center family has made 40 cheese today, about 1,500 pounds. We are now, by the blessing of God, in good living circumstances, having plenty of the good things for the body and soul, and ought to be more thankful than we seem to be. Backing off. David Latham, his wife and daughter Julia, all walked off today. This kind of community does not suit them. Society meeting. The Pleasant Hill visitors attended and introduced some new kinds of marching and exercise such as is now practiced at Pleasant Hill. Peddling trip. George E. Waddle and Houston Shannon with a 6-horse team went to Nashville with 2,200 pounds of flour and 100 brooms for sale. Public meeting was free and unrestrained. The feeling and spirit was such as to remove all restraint, the presence of the world being no obstacle. They sang the well-known revival song, "Come old and young, come great and small, there's love and union free for all, and every one that will obey has now a right to dance and play."
With the signing of the Articles of Agreement, a new member gave all his personal property to the society as long as he remained a member. This scene from the Auburn Community Theater production Shakertown Revisited portrays the signing of the Articles of Agreement.
Here are the Prices who have come into new membership. This morning they are to sign their formal agreement, admitting them to full church relationship by turning over all their property to the United Society of the Believers. Brother and Sister Price, I have your formal agreement ready for your signatures this morning.
Brother Aston and Sister Peggy, I should like to welcome you to our order. This seems to be ready for your signatures to the contract.
Sign here?
Yes, sir, right there. Sister, right here.
It is a great satisfaction to see the new members keep coming. This brings the total to a peak figure of 349.
Bless you, brother. Bless you.
Belief in community property, uniform styles of life, and hard work for the good of the community leave an impression of a mix of modern-day socialism and the frontier Puritan ethic. Other activities were very similar to today's competitive spirit of capitalism. This hotel was built about 1 mile from the main part of the South Union colony. Built on the edge of the L&N Railroad in 1869, it provided an income for the Shakers from room and board charges to resting travelers. The products of Shaker hard work and know-how came to be more than direct usefulness to the colony. A wide variety of products were marketed to outside communities, sometimes involving journeys as far away as New Orleans. The Shakers were widely known for the quality of their garden seed, seeds which were marketed by the aid of the forerunner to contemporary advertising. Their large orchards and vegetable gardens led to a canning industry. Canned goods were distributed in fruit jars bearing the South Union label, now a prized collector's item. If a Shaker needed a tonic, he was likely to draw on the extensive lore of herbs, which was common knowledge to frontier people. The compounding of herbs soon developed into another part of the expanding Shaker commercial enterprises. These remedies were only a part of their patent medicine business. Inventors of the flat broom, the Shakers mechanized its production with this broom press. This undoubtedly made it for more efficient production of brooms, another product for sale to the outside world. This colony of isolationists was surprisingly active in commercial trade with their neighbors, much of the trade stemming from overproductivity of their almost endless areas of activities. Materials for these buildings came from the Shakers' own lumber mill, shingle mill, and brick kilns. These fertile lands were the site of other examples of the Shakers' progressive ways. They were early practitioners of scientific farming and rotation of crops. They introduced purebred registered cattle, importing a sire from England as early as 1814. Brethren of the Shaker community were also active in the keeping of diaries and journals.
U.E. Jones and Matthew N. Houston finished 172 seed boxes for the riverboat. Finished boxing seeds for the river trade, 224 boxed, containing 50,273 papers at Trent's, $3,519.11. Emancipation, Absalom Chisholm and Samuel G. White to go to Russellville to have the last emancipation papers recorded for the black persons here. Another called meeting. The brethren all called again to the frame house and lectured on the impropriety of trying to hold private property, claiming horses as their own, and trading out of union with the elders and trustees, and even speculating on one another, thus supporting a spirit of selfishness and the spirit of the world. Great shame for believers, after so long a privilege, and required everyone, without exception, that whenever any money came into their hands, to immediately give it up in the allotted order. The largest assembly of believers came together at the meeting house that ever met before at one time at South Union, near 300. Another display of the dragon's power. An unconstitutional law was passed by the Kentucky legislature today, whereby a divorce is allowable by one of a party joining the Shakers, and the party not joining obtaining all the property and the children of the family. O Kentucky, noble Kentucky, how thou art fallen. (1816), September the 4th, agreement. About 30 of the most prominent among the brethren assembled together in the elders' room on Sabbath, and agreed not to go in debt for anything but bread and water, salt and medicine. (1817), February the 11th, purchased 300 acres on Drake's Creek for a mill site. Agreement was to pay $2,000 in 3 yearly payments.
The Shakers were beset with the common problems of the frontier. Many of their number were claimed by sickness and death. Other problems came from those in the community who were not entirely friendly toward the Shakers and their way of life.
Letter to the editor from Captain McPherson of the Bowling Green Fort. I've just visited the South Union Shakers. I find they are staying at home and improving their village while the people of the United States are at war, fighting and killing each other.
Well, Captain, you don't know them Shakers. Why, they're making money out of this war. They've always been slick ones, separating husbands and wives and getting people to give away their land to the society and snatching children to make Shakers of them.
The Civil War proved to be the harshest test of the Shakers' idealistic society. They continued their normal routine of daily living and neutrality in the war, interrupted by soldiers of both armies who came demanding food, clothes, fresh horses and forage, or shelter for the night. The Shakers soon found that their policy of equal treatment to both sides would bankrupt them. Their attempt to avert this by charging a nominal sum failed. The soldiers simply took what they wanted. The journal kept by Eldris Nancy Moore during these trying years gives some idea of their problems.
While I am writing, we hear reports of cannonading. It has continued at intervals from 3 o'clock to 6 in the evening. Last night, after we had retired to rest, Captain Wellen, with a company of about 30 cavalry, rode up and called for supper and forage for their horses. The brethren told them we had not the forage to accommodate them with, and the cooks had retired to rest. They very roughly replied, they may unretire and get us some supper. Elder Harvey went up to Bowling Green on the morning train to see if there could be something done to stop the soldiers from making such demands on us for nothing or without paying their bill.
Although the Shakers survived the ordeal of the war, the South Union colony's days were numbered. Depending on new recruits to keep the colony going, the community began its decline soon after the war between the states. The colony was closed in 1922 after over a century of existence. At the end, only 9 members remained. What brought about the decline? The vanishing frontier and relative peace, prosperity and stability that followed the 19th century were probably factors in the decline. The gradual shift toward the technological age made it difficult for handicrafts to compete with factory production. But the Shakers of South Union and their brothers and sisters at Pleasant Hill are forever a part of the history of Kentucky. They contributed to the arts and literature, music and design. The heritage of Kentuckians is enriched by the presence of the Shakers. The Shaker legacy lives in these words.
Do all the good you can, in all the ways you can, to all the people you can, in every place you can, as long as ever you can.
The Shaker story is told in dramatic form at an annual festival conducted by the citizens of Auburn, Kentucky. A summer theater performance of Shakertown Revisited tells much of the Shakers and their way of life. The Shaker Museum in Auburn contains more than 2,000 authentic Shaker items, including textiles, tools, furniture, books and manuscripts, and other articles. For more information on the Shakers, consult any of these books.
Pleasant Hill and its Shakers by Tom Clark and Gerald Ham. By Their Fruits by Julia Neal. Visions of the Heavenly Sphere. The Journal of Eldris Nancy by Julia Neal. Religion in Wood by Edward and Faith Andrews.
This program was produced through a grant from the National Endowment for the Humanities.